Hey YouTubers, it's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. Thank you for joining me again. I really appreciate it. It says live, so maybe I should say that again. It's me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Art. I want to thank you and welcome you to 2018. I'm sorry I'm posting late. I see it's almost 10 o'clock here, but I had a busy day of actually having fun. I went to a friend's house and put together a puzzle that we started 2 months ago, and she couldn't finish it and said, hey, you want to come finish it? So I did. I love puzzles. But I thought I'd start the new year right with something that's been on my mind since this article was sent to me. And the reason I'm doing it, excuse me, is to give the people of St. Louis a little bit of hope, because I know Dr. Chris Busby is in St. Louis investigating the Westlake landfill, taking calculations, talking to people. I think he's going to get actively engaged in that catastrophe there. And he has had very, very good success in advocating for victims of nuclear contamination in England. And in fact, he recently, the last time he was on my show, he talked about this article that he recently got published. And he sent me a copy of it. So I'm going to read it here. This is going to be my first project for 2018, because I think if people see that there's some really good scientists out there advocating on their behalf, it gives people hope. And all is not lost. This is the thing. We have to keep remembering that it's an illusion, that it's all just doom and gloom and we're all lost, because we're realizing that we have been contaminated. And to my brothers and sisters who comment on my page, excuse me, about all the other kinds of contamination, I want to address that also, because I started this channel about 5 years ago. Excuse me, hold on. I don't think I can mute this. I think I will. Hold on. I'm sorry, I went out without a jacket and caught a bit of a cold. But when I started it, I really was not aware of the level of contamination, of nuclear contamination. And then as I progressed, especially since I've had my radio show and I've come in contact with families like Erica Dugan, she's a journalist, and her family has been massively affected by fracking. And they've had a horrible life experience ever since they moved into their dream home that was very near a fracking site. So I've come to learn about fracking, and I've actually come to learn that there's a lot of things. It's not just nuclear. So this isn't about scaring people. This is about getting us to wise up, to realize that we have let the technologists willy-nilly go hands down and do whatever they wanted. And we really couldn't figure out why our families were getting sick, why things weren't working the way they used to. Well, this is why. So I thought this would be a great way to start the new year. I'm going to read Dr. Chris Busby here. I will screen share it with you, and we can all read it together. But I am going to read this article. Let me put my glasses on. Childhood leukemia. It's very fascinating. Let me go back, and so it says present to everyone. Make sure everybody can get this. And then I will go back to this. And this is what we're going to read. This was dated, oh gosh, when did he do this? Dr. Chris Busby. Lord, I don't know what this is. This is a technical date. Let's see if it has it at the bottom. I don't mean to get sidetracked on details here, but it's a very recent study. He said, 2017, and I don't know the date. So this is a scientific study that he conducted on open access text. And you can actually go to this website, oatext.com, and get many, many scientific studies from there. So the title of this, and it is by Dr. Chris Busby, Childhood Leukemia, Atmospheric Test Fallout in High Voltage Power Distribution Lines. Abstract. an association between increased rates of childhood leukemia and proximity to high-voltage electricity power transmission lines was found in a 2005 study by Draper et al. More recently, this study was extended to include a further period of time, and with an enlarged data set by Bunch et al. In 2014. The result being that there was no longer any overall statistically significant effect for the whole period. Using the data from these two studies, the trend in relative risk with fallout dose is examined in 5 sub-periods: 1962 to 69, 1970 to 79, 1980 to 89, 1990 to 99, 2000 to 2008. Let me scrub my glasses a bit here. The effect turns out to be significantly associated with the levels of radioactive fallout from atmospheric testing. I don't know what this means. Chi square for trend equals 7.6. P equals 0.006. A nonlinear association between the relative risk, which is in capitals, and the fallout, capital, doses is robust. R squared equals 0.955. F minus statistic 65.6. P equals 0.004. Fuse et al. In 1999 raised the issue of the concentrated of airborne radioactive particles near power lines, and it is suggested that the observed trend in the relative risk with time supports a hypothesis in which the inhalation of radioactive particles from fallout may be the cause or related to the cause of the effect. The hypothesis is extended to a general discussion of childhood leukemia and radiation, which implicates particulates. I know it's quite scientific sounding, but this is very interesting. And you know me, I usually have to read scientific stuff several times before it sinks in the brain, and there's many of these things, of these numbers, I don't 100% understand, but I do get the general gist, and I believe that you will too. The issue of child cancer, this is introduction, I beg your pardon, introduction. The issue of child cancer and high voltage power lines has been an area of controversy since 1979 when Wertheimer and Leeper reported an association with low frequency wiring electromagnetic EM radiation. In 2005, a 2005 large case control study by the Childhood Cancer Research Group in Oxford demonstrated a modest but statistically significant excess of childhood leukemia 0 to 14 in those living less than 600 meters from a high voltage power line. For those children within 200 meters, the relative risk, which is RR, was 1.64. This Draper et al. Study covered the period 1962 to 95 and involved 9,700 children with leukemia and the same number of controls. The power lines examined were the 400 and 275 kV lines. I think that means 275,000 voltage lines, kV lines. And if let me just stop here and interrupt my reading. If any of you understand these terms that I will openly tell you I'm not completely clear of, please explain it in the comments, because we're here to share and grow. And so I would love for constructive comments in my YouTube readings. And once again, any negative comments will get you barred from my channel immediately. An extension of this large case control study by Bunch et al. Was published in the British Journal of Cancer on 6 February 2014. The Bunch et al. 2014 study increased the number of children with leukemia to 16,620 by extending the period from 1962 to 2008 and adding Scotland to England and Wales. The authors found that over the whole period and for all the children, the effect declined over time from a relative risk of 4.5 in the 60s to 0.71 in the 2000s. They conclude that, quote, a risk declining over time, unquote, cannot arise from any physical effect of the power lines and is more likely to be the result of changing populations of those living near power lines. However, there is potential explanation. Since childhood leukemia has been associated in many studies, 410, with proximity to nuclear sites, in particular fuel processing sites like Sellafield in the UK, it seems possible that radioactive exposures of some kind may be reasonably investigated as a cause. The largest injection of radioactivity into the global environment was the atmospheric nuclear testing that was carried out in the period 1950 through 1963, when the fallout contamination peaked in 1959 to 1963. However, studies using data after 1960 have not reported any significant large excess risk of childhood leukemia trends. This may be because the same period of high fallout exposure saw an increase in infant mortality from all causes, an effect which is capable of quenching increases in child leukemia at higher doses due to the death of pre-leukemic individuals due to immune system incompetence. On the other hand, within national data, childhood leukemia at the time of the peaks in weapons fallout has been associated with fallout exposure using rainfall as a surrogate. Since it has been established that high voltage power lines concentrated particles, it was of interest to see if the variation in the power line and childhood leukemia association could be explained by the trend in fallout over the period of the power line studies. Clearly, although individuals were exposed to fallout over the period of testing, these case control studies are comparing leukemia rates in children and their parents exposed to fallout particles concentrated by the electrostatic effects of power lines with those not so exposed. Let's see how far we have to read. It's actually not that far. Okay. I think well, let me see where I'm at in this. I think I'm going to end here and we'll pick this up tomorrow night. I don't want to have my readings be too long. I always find that they're easier for us to digest when they're short and sweet. So I don't mean to drag this on. It's not a very long article, but I think I'll read it up tomorrow and we'll finish it up. This is part 1. I think we'll post up part 2. Let me stop sharing. And there we go. So I really, I'm about to wave goodbye. My brain's already thinking. I've had a really long day. I don't know if any of you saw my interview this morning with Gerard. What was Gerard's last name? Yeah, funny last name. I just met him over the weekend thanks to Billy Johnston in Scotland because Billy's awesome. Gerard, come on, Gerard, where's your name? I'm gonna find this because I just interviewed the gentleman. His name is Gerard Kenyatta Hay, and he's on Facebook. But he was live streaming my radio show this morning on Facebook while I was interviewing him. That was quite fascinating. But that happened at 8 o'clock. So I've been doing this computer thing quite a bit all day long. I'm going to end here. I want to ask you to put your courage feet on. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being supporters of my channel and of this information, and for keeping the spirit of humanity alive. And focusing our vibrations and our energy on the higher levels and refusing to be baited by lower level people, because that's what's going to bring us through this. And we can do it. That's why I'm going to keep coming back. I'm going to be back tomorrow night. I'll finish reading Dr. Busby's article. I'm going to keep finding articles to read. I think I am going to reach out and try to find some articles about fracking, other really horrible things that have happened around us while we weren't even paying attention. And I guess that's what they wanted us to do. Time for us to pay attention, folks. So put your courage feet on, you guys, and I love you. It really does matter to me, and I do love you, and thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you guys later. Ciao.